Hey, 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 all you happy lost souls. How are y'all doing out there? I want to say thank you all for the continued support as we just keep picking up more subscribers, keep finding more connections between collections, and different people out there finding very similar stuff all across the United States. Happy Lost Souls deals with all different topics. There's music, original art, and then there's this giant research study based on a few creeks in southeastern Pennsylvania that have a massive amount of artifacts spanning all the way back from Neanderthal times, 70 to 100,000 years ago, all the way up through paleo woodland, all the way into woodland and more contemporary type stone artifacts that are shouldered, and more of what you're used to seeing that aren't so old in their design. This type of point here is a very old keel haul type design, one found similar in Meadow Croft, PA, and they date back to about 19,000 years. So already you're destroying that Clovis first paradigm. We find a lot of effigies. This material is ecoglyte, and it's speckled with different elements of mercury and cinnabar. Ecoglyte is a very weird material. They don't know a ton about it. It's a type of mineral that forms in ancient seabeds after they evaporate. So if you find this type of rock, you know you're dealing with ancient oceans. So you could find fossils such as like a little fish fossil here. You see its tail back here, and this is a molded fossil. So you're seeing the reverse side. You can actually see the pectoral fin right there. You can see the fins coming down here. You can see the tail fin very well. The eye. It probably had a little appendage on its head, similar to like an angler type fish, 250 to 300 million years ago, probably Cambriatic period. Other fossils that were found. These fossilized remnants of a kill site. This is some kind of animal that was butchered up, and these are pieces of those bones that have now turned into stone. And it takes thousands of years, at least 12,000 years, I believe, for that process to occur, unless there's some sort of crazy rapid geological things occurring. Some silicated processes can replace woods and organic materials with silicates under the right environment quicker. But it's a discussion for a different day. And especially in Pennsylvania, southeastern PA, a lot of the tributaries of the Delaware, we find very extravagant amount of tools at these quarry sites. And we call them quarry sites because they seem to be going after certain types of material. They were working with the Wissahick and schists that have a lot of metal in them. They can be cut both directions, which is rare for a rock. You can get like this strange tool, which is technically not a composite tool because you're not putting it into a shaft, but they actually carved the shaft right into the Wissahick and schist that was found with this little angular plume type tool. I don't know what they are exactly, but people find a lot of them. There's different ideas. And we always find them in like pairs, like left at crossing sites. Like here's a pair that has pigment on it still. You've got a war celt, pigmentized, coated in red cinnabar and hematite dyes. You could see where the strap went through to fix this onto the shaft because the dye was blocked by the actual strap. And then you have another crazy celt here, and you can still see the pigment running around the outside, that red, white, black color scheme. They were found together at a crossing site. These three were found together. These bizarre quartzites, or there's some sort of granite type tools. This is a magnetite hammer. For a long time I thought this is meteoritic, but I don't think it's a meteorite. The thing is, it's magnetite, and the way this is shaped with this crease here, it forms a lode or a lodestone. So this is like an early ancient compass or directional navigational type tool. Found another pair at a crossing site. These are these beautiful ringed material, this beautiful celt and hammer or mace head set. And it goes on, these matching artifact pairs left in situ along the side of important crossing paths. Different material cultures through different times. The reason this is significant is because this same practice, spiritually, ritually, was taking place in ancient UK, Doggerland, ancient Stonehenge type, time period, way back then in the Neolithic, and even prior to that. So a lot of this stuff is Neolithic moving into Mesolithic, and then there's a whole separate culture that was using Corundum, and Corundum is aluminum oxide. The prettier examples of Corundum are rubies, emeralds, and sapphires. They can be any color under the sun. If you have a lot of schist in the area that has a lot of aluminum or metals running through it, and a lot of metamorphic processes have occurred over time, there's a good chance you could find rubies and sapphires. And they were making all kinds of tools out of this stuff, and some of them were effigies. So this not only is a shaft straightener and cutter, but the mouth is also, it's a turtle effigy. And one of the main sites for finding a lot of these artifacts is the Pennypack Creek, and there's an animal that is native to there that it's protected. It's called the alligator snapping turtle. Its lineage goes back 90 million years. It was worshipped by the natives, obviously, in the creek because they were making all kinds of effigies of these little turtle-shaped cutters and scrapers. We have a woolly mammoth that is corundum or sapphire growing out of that schist there, and they just reliefed and carved back the schist, leaving the sapphire elevated, creating this mammoth head pendant. You see its mouth, its trunk, its eye. I call this the Nephilim. This is some crude nickel and gold type amalgamation, but you can see it's shaped into this flat-headed, monster-looking Bigfoot type thing. It could be a side profile too, but I really see an ear, an eye, a mouth, and then it's inlaid with cinnabar pigment, and that was baked into it like an enamel. We have another side profile of, this looks like it has some gold mixed in with the sapphire, and it's another side profile of the head. We have another strange effigy that is sapphire or corundum, and it looks like you have a sword or spear with a hand. The hand is the nose of the bear. The spear or the sword makes up its eye and its ear. But a lot of these anamorphic profiles, you get this horse made out of yellow corundum, you got the eye, the mane, the mouth, it's a side profile, but then they cut this relief in for where the bottom of its neck is, and the back of its mane is where your finger would go, and this is a pressure flaking tool to flake off the edges to make sharper tools. And corundum, being almost as hard as diamond and more robust, is an absolutely perfect tool to cut into other rock with, to make hammers, to make chisels, to make picks with. To make saws. You got some sapphire, rough ruby type saw looking tooth type tools. Got a big yellow sapphire saw up here, and you can still see the blade hasn't been totally away. Now, a lot of people will comment, sapphire hammer, this was composite, obviously this went into a shaft and it was a pick of some sort. A lot of people will comment that these are just geofacts, or they're not artifacts, they don't show signs of flaking. Spear points and certain materials were flaked in through your Indian paleo woodland. They were flaking chert, even through the Paleolithic. They were flaking hand axes out of different igneous type rocks like volcanic glass, obsidian, quartz. The Neanderthals were extremely good at making hand axes and razor blades using percussion. And there's a couple different forms of stonework. There's percussion. There's percussion with flaking. There's different evolution of tool design. The older you go back, you don't get tools that are flaked on both sides. There's a period of time where flaking occurred on one side of the tool and not on the other. It's called unifacially flaked. Then there's bifacial flaking, where there's flaking on both sides. Then there's coring or fulsum style points or Clovis style points, where they're taking a core out of the middle of the stone for shafting purposes. And then there's a whole nother range of stone tools that are more ancient, that go back and to different groups of people, such as the Solutrean, who were making a lot of smaller beads, using a lot of hard stone to make saw blades, little tiny saw blades, needles, points, needle points, hammer heads, pick saws. This is all Solutrean, these little tiny hammers. They were working with seal hides. They were dressing in warm clothing. It was, during the last ice age, when these people existed alongside of other hominids like Neanderthals and the myriad of different Neanderthals. I don't want to go through all the different hominid species. We can make a different video about that. I don't know them all off of the top of my head because there's a lot of them. There's Australopithecus. There's remember all the different names. Hyperbrigantia. It's all different forms of early hominin humans, cousins of ours, before it was just down to Cro-Magnon against Neanderthal at some point. And due to natural disaster and whatnot, the humans probably won out. We would have probably been hunted to extinction by Neanderthals if natural disasters hadn't have occurred and intervened. We were down to a couple hundred humans or less at one point in our history. There's only a 0.01% variance between you and any other human on this earth. When we take the same numbers and we apply it to chimpanzees, chimpanzees are about a 1.6 to a 1.7 variance between individuals. It's about 5 times the variance. It's because at one point there was only about 50 or 60 humans left that we all repopulated from. So it's called a genetic bottleneck, which totally destroys a lot of the previous thoughts that Neanderthals and humans just got along. That's not what evolution says. Evolution clearly says individuals or organisms that are most similar will compete the most vicious and the most hard fought battles over resources. So the Neanderthals, which could pick up a NFL linebacker and chuck them through a goalpost if they really wanted to, they were absolutely massive, muscular. They were a little shorter than us. They were faster than us. They might have been hair covered. They most likely could see at night. They had cat-like eyes that were about 3 times the size of ours. Their bone density is about 3 times ours. They were just destroying us and eating us and then taking our women and forcing mating with human women. So they would eat the men, and ruthlessly they would take the women and force themselves and procreate, and that's how hybrids, and that's why to this day we still have, most humans have 1% or 2% of Neanderthal in them still. Evolution would have pushed these traits. We wouldn't have kept these traits, but they're beneficial for us. They make us faster. These Neanderthal genes stronger, can make us more aggressive. They can make us more resilient to injuries. They helped our immune system. It helps in colder climates. And what we can possibly draw from this is certain things that were left over in our own evolution. The stuff that still hangs around, the stuff that causes fear, like being afraid in the dark, because at one point we're probably being hunted by these things. This ultimate human taboo of cannibalism, which, if they were preying upon us, then this is why cannibalism is probably so taboo within human culture. It's so feared and it's so shunned. although there is still modern cannibalism amongst certain tribes and whatnot. It's like a flashback. They weren't only eating other humans. Neanderthals could take down cave bears and lions. These are prey items we wouldn't go near because they were just faster, stronger. They were monsters. They were literally monsters. Now, this theory gets a lot of heat, but I think it's the one that makes most sense with the evidence, especially with there's been Neanderthal sites where there's Neanderthal bones left that were cannibalized. So they weren't only eating other humans, they were eating all other human species, including other Neanderthals. Anything was fair game. But here's a cool sign. This is like a piece of volcanic or metamorphic type material, some kind of granite, but you can see that that was flaked by something. And there's a piece missing out of it. Probably flaked the edge or a cutting tool out of it. We get a lot of these interesting hammerheads and celts and war type clubs. A lot of older stuff. This is more Neanderthal type tool design, and we see this in a lot of Neanderthal type sites. We get these cutters. So obviously we get these Neanderthal type tools. This is an amazing gouge. You can see I call this the Stone Age comb, essentially, but this is a gouge. This is a cutting instrument, usually for cutting and shaping wood. This could have been bone at some point. It seems heat treated. If you hear it. So it was hardened, definitely, but it just might be fossilized bone, or it's some sort of chert or shell or something that was heat treated, but definitely was heat treated. All these tools were. And you really see it when you get the pitch. You see like one side is completely white, and the spot that was in their hand picks up all that artifact pitch, and this is probably a planer or a smoother or a polisher, but you can literally see all that patina and stuff picked up from the mineralization of the sweat, the grease, the dirt, the pitch that was on there from using it. But the sapphire stuff is very, very interesting because of the way they were working with it. So instead of using pressure flaking or percussion, which is where you smack a rock with another harder rock, something like this. There's a hammer stone. You would take this stone and you would smack a volcanic glass or piece of quartz, and you get or flint, and you get a shard or a flake. And then from that flake, you could go and just use the flake as a cutting tool. That would just be a percussion flaked cutting tool. Or you could go back and detail. You could put some shoulders on the spearhead, or you could put some serrations around the edge, and that is called so you've got percussion, and that's called edge flaking or edge working. That came a little after just the percussion period. And then there's a whole nother method, and you see it in the Neolithic, where they were taking the sharp axes. So you have like a sharp type hand axe here. So this would be more like Neolithic, or they would just cut. They would get the sharp edges, then they would have it, and they would just cut to cut wood, to cut bone, to cut through anything. This is a classic hand axe. It's fluid in the middle, so you go hold it. It's edged on both sides, so you can cut. And this was percussion flaked and then just left. Whereas a little bit more recent in time, as you move towards the planting, and we go from a hunter and gatherer to an agricultural based society, we start getting these smoother type tools. So our axe heads that were once fracture sharpened were fractured, and then they were honed down by sand and by abrasion to make these very smooth cutting tools. Like if you think of an axe blade these days, there's not these sharp jagged edges all over. It's nice and smooth, and it comes to a sharpened wedge at the end. And the smoothness is huge when you're starting to cut down wood and you're clearing forests, because just like this, you see how smooth this is after the cutting blade. There's no friction. You want that as smooth as possible, so as it's cutting through, it's not getting caught on things and creating friction. So you go from this fracturing type tool method to abrasion. And then with the Solutreans, because they were, this is my hypothesis, they were using all of this sapphire. I have a lot of sapphire over here. These are just, here's a big piece of natural yellow sapphire. You see it's very blocky. It tries to form that like six-sided shape. This one's still in its matrix, its shape. You can see it. They'll look like stop signs a lot. Here's a massive piece of clear. Looks like a stop sign. Get this crazy blue stuff. This is still in its matrix. This is blue sapphire. They were utilizing all of these different types of sapphires, and they were making tools. Here's a spearhead where the tip is broken, but this is just straight up rough blue sapphire. So these diamond shaped that are just smooth down, that don't have any kind of fluting, that are very diamond shaped. We get a lot of them over here. Proto-shouldered. Those are early Solutrean, talking like 20,000 years ago. Someone must have got over here from Ice Age Europe, got across the east coast and followed the ice sheets over, not across the Beringian Strait on the west coast. This is my crux of my whole theory. This is where I like to fight against the mainstream. People 20,000 years ago got across those ice sheets. They were hunting seals, and they got here, and we're finding all their artifacts now, because these are much older than the Clovis model, which ends around 13,000 years ago. A lot of these artifacts are 17 to 20,000 years old. Now, there is some more recent stuff like this mixed in, because like I said, these quarries have been reused a bunch by different groups from 70,000 years or later all the way up until recent times. And they were utilizing the same good stone materials and metals. Later on, metals, the same place these aluminum oxides are, there's all kinds of metals, and it's just a giant metamorphic uptick, so you never know what kind of material you find. You get a lot of the garnets, like I said before. This is a Wissahickon garnet complex. Here's a little, this got smoothed out by the creek, but this is unifacially flaked. It's just a tiny little proto-shoulder. This is a stem, but it's a little blue color-changing sapphire, and somebody was able to shape that into a small tool. It's very Solutrean, and that it's just amazing they were able to shape that sapphire, in being how hard it is, into that shape. But I just brought some other rough sapphires out to show you what they can look like. They color shift. This is like a bluish green one. This is like a ghost sapphire. I call this color ghost. It's like a grayish smoky color sapphire. It can be mistaken for smoky quartz, but it's way harder. And you can see, because the corundum already forms in this natural stop sign shape, like, it's really a, it's not a, it'll look like a pentagram a lot of times. It's really a hexagon. They're hexagonal by pyramidic. And you can see it's 1 side, 2 side, 3 side, 4 side, 5 side. Because they were shaping this down, or it didn't form its other point. But the stuff grows like this, very barrel. See all the edges, all the facets. Stuff's extremely hard. We got hardness testers here. I already have videos explaining how to use those. I might post another one. Look, there's a blue sapphire knife. There's some sort of bone, fossilized bone knife. Efficacy is really the most important thing when you're artifact hunting. Are you finding tools that are similar in design? Like, you see this white design tool that is both percussion and it is also flaked along the edges. We've got a slightly bigger one, but the same design made out of this material right here, this flint type material, and then down here we have, or shale type material, and down here we have quartz. But that design is the same. And that design is not Clovis or Folsom because it's not fluted. The actual core in the middle is raised, so they were holding this and able to cut on both sides, but it could have also been a projectile point. It could have been shoved down into a shaft or attached to a shaft. Another giant piece of aluminum oxide down there. You can see that black crust before the clear underneath of it. This stuff's neat. It only exists around here. This is called Wissahickon schist with garnet. All those little darkish red and black dots are pieces of garnet. And I keep this out when I test because this is a good thing. You've got schist, garnet, and then sapphire. So when you use your reader, you could say, oh, schist is going to come in at 6 or 5 or 6. If I move over to the garnet, it's going to come in around a 6 or 7. If I test it next to the sapphire, sapphire is going to come in around an 8 or a 9 on the tester over here. So that's why they're out right now, just to have other materials to test against for hardness. These are the two sapphires, rough gold blue sheen sapphires that the winner has won. I announced that in the last video. I did notify them already. I'm sorry about the delay in shipping. It is going to go out in the next couple days. I am working on figuring out international shipping and waiting on a couple other items for the gift. If I have any problems, I'll reach out to that person. Really, guys, what I really wanted to do going forward on a video is I've been getting a lot of people commenting and reaching out with finds of their own that are similar. Other people's finding corundum or sapphire type artifacts and old stone tools. And people always ask me, where can I get in contact or send pictures to you? Going forward, there will be a members section where we can do a little bit of one-on-one once that gets set up and there's more memberships. If you're interested in that and want to support the channel, it starts out as low as like $3 a month. So check it out in the comments and community tab. So what I want to do is have you guys send me all of your pictures and stuff that you're finding. And where you can send them is... I think it's happylostsouls27@gmail.com. I will post the email up on the screen. Send me your pictures there, and if I see stuff that is similar, it'll take me a little time to aggregate everything. Once I get all of these pictures from other people, I will create a compilation video of similar items and credit the people finding them as long as they're okay with that. I'll ask permission, obviously. So you can just see all the similarities all up the East Coast, going down south, all the similar type artifacts. So we can kind of get this story straightened out in North America, that the peopling in North America is a much deeper and more mysterious story than the paradigms and the mainstream archaeology in North America these days dives into. And if they honestly think that there were no human beings on this giant landmass before Clovis, before 13,000 years ago, they need to go back to school and they need to reevaluate the evidence that's been found out there. They need to start paying more attention to evidence like this. This gets much deeper, guys, because in the same area we find tons of different cairns and dolems and stone circles and chambers and mounds and things very similar that you saw in ancient Stone Age Europe and ancient Stone Age Mediterranean. I'm really starting to believe there was just an ancient mass culture that was pretty much spread out all over, and then something wiped everybody out. Anyways, we discussed a couple different things. Some people have problems with the Neanderthal predation theory, but I think it's the one that makes the most sense. I don't think that we were just all getting along back in the day. I think it was a dog-eat-dog world, so to speak. It was either eat or be eaten. I think that's why, like Darren Kuru, you have these crazy, enormous underground cities. At one point, humans were hiding either up in the mountains, in the caves, or they were building cities that could fit 20, 30,000 people and livestock underground, completely hidden and fortified. Why were they doing this? How old do these cities go back? No one knows. But one a very, very good explanation is if you're being hunted to extinction by something that you have no answer against, that is faster, stronger, better equipped, has the same size brain, organized, killing machines that the Neanderthals apparently were, you would build these cities to get away from that to have a chance. And ironically, it's that very notion that might have helped them survive, because fate intervened, and there's a giant eruption, I think about 70,000, 100,000 years ago, maybe a little bit further back in the Mediterranean. This is bigger than the caldera of Jellystone. Massive eruption. Destroyed and killed all life 80 miles from just the blast site. This totally just wiped out about 90% of surface life, and that's all the food that Neanderthals ate. At this point, we had already been hiding and running, and possibly the very notion of being underground and protected saved us from both the natural disasters and the predation of the Neanderthals. And who knows, it's possible that the Neanderthals didn't die out. I mean, 2% of them are in all of us, so technically they never died out. But what if they just got bigger, stronger, and faster, and there are these things that everyone sees in the forest that they call Bigfoot. Maybe they're still out there living off the grid, as you know, they were incredible survivors. But anyways, all this stuff is found in southeastern Pennsylvania. It's about 15, 16 miles outside of Philadelphia, some of it even closer. And this is like a small fragment of my collection. When I say efficacy, I have a lot of the stuff already sorted out, the files, the picks, the things that look similar. These older cutting tools, they're definitely Solutrean. Even some of them are even old enough to possibly be like Neanderthal type design, but the scalpel shape and these crescents and these hooks, that's a very Solutrean type thing. They were fishing. They made scalpel-shaped tools and instruments quite often. I have another one down here, very scalpel-shaped. This is unifacially flaked, so it's half on one side, flaked on one side, smooth on the other. So we could put that maybe around 17 to 15,000 years. As something like this, we would probably say 20 to 70,000 years back with this tool design here. You can see the patina on it. This is some sort of volcanic rock too. This is some sort of obsidian. It looks like green obsidian almost. Green obsidian. It looks brown. Brownish yellow. Look at that proto stem, ancient. You get these bird arrows, these blunt tips that were used to knock out birds. You don't really want to penetrate the bird because then you destroy all the meat. It's all different types of artifacts. I have drawers and drawers full. One day I'll get them all out all over so you can see the thousands and thousands and thousands, because this is about a tenth of what I have displayed out here. And all from just 2 streams and a couple quarry sites along those streams, all these finds. So you can go to any of these quarries to this day and find buckets of this. I could get a pickup truck and go and shovel buckets and buckets of these stone tools, these discards, these rough gemstones from these particular quarry sites. And this is a massive operation. Whoever was running and working these quarries during the Solutrean time, 20, 30,000 years, it seems like a relatively peaceful time, because they had time to set up these production areas, to create all these tools, to not only create a tool and a knife, but to put art in it, like a horse effigy or a mammoth effigy, to put these anamorphic figures, endowing them with the power, the tool with the spirit and energy of that animal. This is an ancient belief system practiced. So whatever they were doing, they were organized. Obviously, they had to be not very nomadic. If they were setting up these quarry sites, they were more stationary than we believe. And it's very, very possible that 20,000, 30,000 years ago, Solutreans were creating little settlements and habitat sites that aren't documented, and this would completely shift our timeline as to the track of humans. Remember, 12,500 years ago is when science says, or scientists or mainstream archaeology says, that we shifted from hunter-gatherers to this agricultural-based society. We learned how to plant. We learned how to create civilization and society, laws and structures, and we weren't nomadic anymore. We started settling down. Maybe this happened way, way back. We got wiped out, and then we had to start over and learn all those skills again about planting. Because these people were definitely not just hunting and gathering 20,000 years ago. A lot of these tools are agricultural, woodworking tools, fishing tools, clothing, to make clothing, textile type tools. So they were doing all kinds of production along these sites to create the amount of tools. And these sites have been utilized for this purpose for thousands of years. Once you get in more recent times, maybe 10,000 years ago and up, you start getting a lot more of these war-type artifacts, these celts, these hammers, these tomahawks, and that type stuff. But anyways, I just wanted to post up a quick video explaining some more stuff, more finds. Wanted to update everyone about the contest that I did finally get the stone cut down. I'm going to send both of those out to the winner. And like I said, they've been notified already. But anyways, please guys, subscribe if you haven't, and comment or like if you want to. I don't like to force that upon anybody. So if you don't and you found this useless and I wasted your time, I apologize for that too. Was not my intention, but please check out a ton of other videos. I also do a lot of original music, songs, poetry, philosophy discussions, anthropological type discussions, mysterious type stuff. All that good stuff is kind of what the channel is about. Anyways, I do have a store. If you like any of my artwork, I have all kinds of merchandise displaying different artwork, original stuff that I've done. So check out the store. You can find that in the community tab. There's a link for it. And I'll post a link down in the comments or the description for everything as well. But anyway, guys, I love you all. Stay safe. Please subscribe. Stay happy. Stay lost. And sometimes we gotta lose ourselves to find ourselves. So with that, I'll let you all go. Peace, love.